Welcome to the Scotty P Breakdown. I'm with Alyssa Cantu, the owner, trainer, head coach of Grindhouse Fitness and Grindhouse MMA.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely, I appreciate you coming on. One of the things I guess I want to get into is, you kind of want to tell the audience your story?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been kind of a lifelong martial artist, I guess. Like I was one of those kids that, parents put them in Taekwondo when they were young. And then I just really never stopped. I got into basketball eventually, but I was always training. I got my second degree black belt in Taekwondo, and when I was in college, like nobody really does Taekwondo anymore. And the UFC and like MMA like just started to get, some momentum going. So I had a friend and he was like, you should do MMA, like give it a try. And I was like, okay, cool. So I started training in that, and kind of small world. Like I think a lot of my path to get to where I've been was just like right place, right time and meeting, the right people. So Colin Contrell was actually my first MMA coach. So if you don't, Colin was like the voice of legacy for so long, and he's, been big in the MMA and jiu-jitsu scene here in Houston as well. So, I really started to learn under him, and I had a fight to see if he would put me in legacy, and I won that fight. I knocked the girl out, and then so I fought for legacy as an amateur, and that just kind of snowballed where I'm at here in Houston.
Awesome. Yeah, what was your fight record? I didn't know you had.
Yeah, I was just 2-0.
2-0,
yeah.
Very cool.
So at the time, this was maybe 2014, 2015. I had just graduated college, just got out of like basic training. I was in the Army National Guard, so I joined Team Took. I was just training as a fighter, and something that's really kind of funny is, Professor Travis was like, oh, so you do MMA? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, cool, so you'll train in the gi. And I was like, why would I train in the gi? I'm a fighter, And like that was their rules. I had to do 6 months in the gi before like I could fight again. And I was just like, what? So I was like in this like thick amber gi, like I didn't know what to do. I hated it. I was claustrophobic. So, but eventually like that became like my passion. I ended up tearing my meniscus training for my next fight, and just kind of, derailed the path that I thought I was going, so I had to really dig into, what I wanted to do with my life. And, I had just graduated college, so I had a kinesiology degree, and I had been personal training people and training. So I feel like that path to becoming an MMA fighter, I just kind of had to pivot and like really focus on my career as a trainer and what I wanted to do with that, so.
Yeah. And so I guess that's how Grindhouse was born?
Yeah, that's how Grindhouse was born. I was a personal trainer at like a Globo gym in college, and then training for my fight, I had a strength and conditioning coach, who like kind of introduced me to CrossFit, and I was like, what is this? And so I started doing that, and it really helped my endurance and my my training and things like that. So I kind of fell in love with it, got certified in it, and became a coach at a CrossFit gym. So I just kind of started working at a gym while I was training as a fighter, and met a guy named Dusty who saw me working and was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, well, I'm like 22, 23, so I don't know, like eventually have my own gym. And he was like, well, let's do it. And I was like, no, like I'm so young, I'm gonna be a UFC fighter. And so, I ended up, like I said, hurting my knee, and so I just kind of really took that more serious with like what he was saying, and I was like, well, like here I am, like, okay, fine, let's do it. So Grindhouse was born. So.
Awesome. And the reason we know each other is you've been my personal trainer.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've been great. One of my favorite photos is how I won double gold at Grappling Industries, and I just looked way different, and I was like, this is a good place. Yeah. I've been to your open mats on Saturdays, your no-gi open mats, and you have a good crew. Like, it seems like everyone's nice. Seems like everyone's really nice. You go to some open mats and everyone's trying to kill each other, and it seems
for sure.
not very welcome. Everyone eyeballs you, but here it's like seemed pretty welcoming.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely have like I guess it's not a rule, but I'm very I don't like big egos on the mat. Like, I just don't think that's really good for the community. And that's been my biggest thing. Like, when we opened up both of our gyms. I want anyone to walk into our gym and like feel welcome here. And so, the minute I see someone who just doesn't fit that, we just kind of pull them aside and be like, hey man, like maybe we're not for you. And like, I think some people are afraid to do that. Like, they see, oh, well, I don't want to get a bad rep, or, oh, I don't want to, get a bad review or something. But I just think that you should be able to protect your environment and your peace and kind of set the standard for everybody, and honestly, I've never really had an issue since like ever, we just kind of pull people aside and be like, we're not those people here. Like, we're all a bunch of jiu-jitsu nerds. We want to train tomorrow. Like, take it easy a little bit, and then people kind of lighten up. So. Right.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, so you're telling me about the meniscus injury you had that kind of derailed the MMA game, and you're kind of going through an injury right now.
Yes, as I sit here in a brace.
Yeah. So obviously I get hurt all the time. Like, I came to you hurt, and then hurt myself in the gym, and it's kind of been this back and forth. And so, just for me personally, one, you realize that everyone gets hurt, and the people who are still doing it are the ones who chose to not give up. Because we all know people that quit training after they got hurt. And for me, it's that voice comes into my mind. I always want to quit after I get hurt, right? It's like, is this for me? Should I just pivot and not compete and just coach and be more like Danaher, where I'm sitting Indian style, passing knowledge? But I always hear this voice. It's like, so what are you going to do? Quit?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I ain't quitting.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to talk to, I guess, kind of like get more in depth with kind of what you're going through, because I know you're in it. When I was feeling bad about my hip, I'd messaged you just to set up the podcast, and you're telling me what you're going through with the knee, and I was like, dude,
you're like, all right.
Yeah, I'm not complaining anymore.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess to kind of back up just a little bit, when I first had my first meniscus surgery, like, it really made me like focus on the fitness side of martial arts. Because it would be like, how many times, I don't know, I've been doing this for 12 years. So back in the day it was like, jog around the mat, shrimp, and like, let's get going. You know what I mean? And for MMA, it was like, set a 10-minute clock, jump rope, and shadow box. And like, that was what we did to warm up, and like, I never really paid attention to like the positions that we're in and how, contorted our bodies are. And then I'm still trying to lift weights and still run. And it's just like, so much mileage and so much, just stress on the body that like I never really paid attention. So after that first surgery, like, I made it a point that like I wanted to provide something for martial arts athletes, like jiu-jitsu, MMA, just boxing, kickboxing, to like focus on things. It's not just about, I got to get my cardio up, but like longevity. Like, this was like everything to me. And once jiu-jitsu took over, I was like, okay, my body's in way worse positions than in MMA, which sounds silly, but it's so true, So, I really focused on that. And my knee injury, like the first part of it, probably happened as a purple belt. And like, I would get into like deep or like half guard, and my knee would get stuck. And I'd just kind of like kick it back in and be like, okay, I'm good to go, keep going. Or I'd go to take someone's back or do this like big looping thing, and my knee would lock. And like, I just kept focusing on like PT and what to do. And so turns out my patella had just kept like subluxing like all these years. And so I had done so much damage to my cartilage and things that like there was nothing holding it. So I was 2 weeks out from Master Worlds this past year. I did this just big windshield wiper to like pass, and my knee got stuck. And it sounds silly, because I don't think the average person would like let their knee get stuck and then their like friend be like, pop it back in, be like, you good to go? Like, I feel like the first time they'd be like, I got to see an ortho ASAP, So my training partner actually was like, oh, go ahead, lay back. She knew how to pop it back in, and so she tugged on it, and I was like, that's not the same. So I ended up tearing my meniscus. It was a full bucket handle tear, so my leg was stuck. And then x-rays showed my patella was sitting way off to the side. So what I thought was going to be like a 6 to 8 week recovery has now turned into like 6 to 8 months before I'm like back, like fully exercising, So luckily it's fixed now. Like, I really went back and forth, like, do I just get the meniscus fixed and like just don't compete anymore? Like, maybe my focus is on just teaching. Like, maybe I'll just never play like this certain game, but I think at the end of the day, like, I'm still only 35, and like I know people who are like in their 60s still training jiu-jitsu, you know. So I didn't think it was over yet, you know. So I'm willing to sit out for the next probably year before I can like be back to 100%, you know, and just I guess focus on recovering and my coaching. But I won't lie, it's not easy. Like it's definitely not easy, but like I just think it's worth it. And I think that, you know, when jiu-jitsu becomes like who you are and your lifestyle, and like everything revolves around this sport, like, and the community that I've built around it and the community that I'm part of, like there's like, it's a given, you know. It's kind of the same, like I'm sure, you know, now that you're coaching at another location, like it's just different, you know, like those are your people, you know, and you want to show up for them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's funny, you know, you get to where it's like these people rely on you all of a sudden, you know. It's like, because people, you know, since I started this, there's people who want to take me other places or have me open up a gym somewhere else, and I'm like, dude, people are really happy that I'm there. It's like, so I need, and you know, also it's like when you train for yourself, you know, you are willing to push yourself and go further, but it's also hard to, you never know when is enough, and so you know, I'd push myself up to a certain point. But then I have these two 15-year-olds and these two 12-year-olds for my kids in my adults class. And then I'm like, I have to be above the standard.
Right.
I have to be better than what I think I can be, because the only way, you know, because these kids, they want to do MMA, right? And they're asking me about it, and I tell them they need to lift weights. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, one of these days we'll lift weights.
Right.
And it just occurs to me is like, I'm going to have to force these kids to do push-ups.
Yeah.
So now we're all doing push-ups every day.
Right.
You know, and it's like, yeah, you have to be willing to go the extra step for someone else, and that seems to be more motivating than just doing it for yourself.
Right.
I would never force myself to do push-ups. I'm like, my chest days on Monday, you know?
No,
but,
totally.
When you have two 15-year-olds who are like, oh, I can't do 20 push-ups.
Right.
It's like, well, we're doing 20 push-ups every day until we can do 50.
I love it, yes. No, for sure. So I had surgery, it would be 8 weeks today. And literally like 1 week after surgery, there was a huge smoker, and I had like 8 guys signed up for it. And I was like, I can't be there. Like, I can't not be there for their first thing, you know? So like, luckily, like the guys at 4 Ounce were super cool. And I was like, hey, I literally just had surgery. My leg is huge, but I got 8 guys. I'd like to be there. Like, can we be first at least, you know, so I can like go in and out? And so like I was there like on crutches, and just like everybody was behind me like in the corner. Like I couldn't sit down, so I just stood up with my crutches like yelling at my guys, and was just like, but like it was so important to like be there for like their first, you know, their first thing. Like no matter what, like I still wanted to show up. But yeah, that was crazy. The minute we got in the car, my leg was just like a giant balloon. And I was like, I'm not leaving my bed for like 2 days, you know. But I think just your presence, even though you're injured, like it really matters. And, you know, like I think like Travis kind of set that, he kind of set that standard for us. You know, he was in a tournament one time and like shot and like tore his bicep tendon, like it just popped. And so he was still on the mat with like one arm and like would tap us out, like not going light, like would just literally, he didn't need his other arm, and he still rolled with us with a brace on and things like that. And like he just showed up, you know. And I've seen him pop his knee before and like, you know, figured out ways to still be on the mats with us and show us, you know. So it's like, you know, that's who I'm looking up to. And it's like, I can't just sit at home and feel sorry for myself too. You know, my professor's making it work. Like I need to make it work for my guys too.
Right. And you know, it's funny how it seems a lot of times, you know, well, life makes sense played backwards. It seems like to me that when we do take injuries, it's like time to focus on something else.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not a stop to something. It's like, most likely there's something that needed your attention anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's hard to be, you know, very aware of your students and very aware of your different businesses going on when you're trying to be the best competitor.
Right.
Especially at Masters Worlds, you're trying to win the whole thing. So, you know, I'm sure every day for you was regimented. You know, you're training, you got to work out, you got to eat right, because you're going against the best women in the world.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just same thing with my experience. It's like, if you're teaching kids or you're teaching a class, you are also worried about how am I going to get my rounds in, how I'm going to get, you know. And so it's like, I can't watch my students because I'm having to roll. And then you're like, they're asking you questions. I'm like, man, I got to see you in the position. I got to see what it is.
Right.
So even just like not participating and standing there and watching my guys roll is like, a big deal. So it always seems to me, it's like one of the things I have to remind myself when I do get hurt is like, well, now you got to pivot, work on your content, work on your coaching. How can you get better at those things? The competing's not over, it's just taking a break.
No, absolutely. Like I definitely, like, I don't compete very often. I really like to do super fights. I think those are super fun. And then there's a group of us that are really close to black belt, and so this was kind of, we all wanted to do Master Worlds together, and like have this competition. So I knew for at least 6 weeks that I could be a little selfish with my time, my MMA guy that fights for Fury had just had a fight, things were going here where like my wife could pick up the classes, Dusty, who I own the gym with, was, understood too. So, I was kind of in that, like, all right, I'm in it, like, here we go, and then the minute I had this injury, it was like, okay, I didn't realize like how much time was dedicated to that. Because you're right, it was meal prepping, working out, resting, recovering, going to practice, getting this set up. So, once I was forced to just recover, it was like, oh man, like everybody's kind of getting just a piece of me. Like now I can really dive in and, focus on them. So, my staff here on the fitness side, I've really, I don't know if it's good or bad for them, because like now I'm always with them and I'm like, hey, let's do this. Like, so I don't know if they're excited about it, but I am, because I feel like I can devote a little bit more time to like, help them build their fitness careers. And, these guys, we went to Jiu-Jitsu World League a few weeks ago. I only took 5 guys for Nogi, and we ended up getting 2nd place overall. Like, and there's some big schools in Houston, so I was just like, man, that says a lot. Like, you guys are putting in time. Like, I was able to just sit with you guys and focus on things. So, like, you can, like, that's been, like, I guess the biggest, like, blessing out of all of this, besides always feeling sorry for myself that I can't train. Is that, like, I have been able to see that, like, devoting like to somebody else and to the bigger picture has been like really, really good. Like, it's been
awesome.
Good.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times all you can do is just accept what has happened and how can you make the most out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And like the minute I started to get balance, like, and was like, okay, I don't feel like my knee's gonna explode. Like, I've been on the mat. Like, like my wife comes in to teach gi jiu-jitsu, and so like when I see her car, like I'll grab my crutches really fast and be like, I had him the whole time, I promise. But like it's so hard to like not be part of the mat. Like, it's so hard. Like, I had to show somebody like a triangle setup the other day, and I was like, all right, I think I can get my good leg around to show you the angle I need to be at, so.
Yeah, I definitely have a bad knee, and so like one side I can butterfly hook all day. The other side I'm not butterfly hooking anybody.
I get it.
And so I'm showing my guys counters and be like, okay, I got to switch sides for the butterfly hook, or I got to switch sides for this one.
Right.
But as I've gotten injuries on both sides, the other side of my game levels up. Like when I first hurt this knee, I had to put it on the bottom. So typically, I'd play on someone's right side, right? So I'd lean this way and play my half guard from here. But when I originally hurt this knee, I didn't want anyone putting weight on it. Like, I can't use a knee shield. And last thing I want is people rolling over doing toe holds on me. So then I would switch to this side, because if it's underneath them, at least they're not going to attack it.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden I realized, like, oh, I can butterfly hook all of a sudden. And I have different options. And so now I'll switch back and forth between half guards on which side. And
there you go.
It's funny how just switching to a different side mid-roll like completely confuses someone.
Yeah.
They don't even.
Because nobody wants to pass that way anyway. Like, it was good for you.
Yep. It always works out. So it's kind of like how you're saying with your coach, Professor Took. He just figured out a different way.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like that's just what it is. Like, I know if you're not in jiu-jitsu and you're just kind of watching us, it seems crazy, right? Like, there's a person that you trust, that you call your friend, who's like getting you very close to like hurting you, but not, So like, but also like I've had clients who sneezed really hard and threw out their back, So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you can get hurt doing anything. Might as well be something fun that you love.
Right, 100%. we were talking about the injuries. Yeah, I hurt my wrist really bad one time going against a blue belt. We were doing spider web, and I was just like exposing his wrist a little bit to show him the possibility. And then when it was his turn, he was like, and my wrist is still jacked up to this day. But what it let me know is how often I really need the strength of this wrist, and I don't even pay attention to it. Like, I realize like how often I'll just hold someone down with it, right? Or like how often it helps me if I can like reach behind someone's head and grab an arm. And then when it was taken away from me, I had to come up with different ways to use it.
Right.
And it was just like very interesting. I'm like, I use this, helps me out a lot, and I'm not even aware of it.
Right. Yeah.
So now it's like something that I'm constantly paying attention to.
Right. Yeah, for sure. What's been like your weirdest injury that you've had, like on the mats?
Weirdest injury, let's see here. I mean, I've popped my ribs multiple times. It's probably like, I'm not kidding you, I've probably done it at least 4 or 5 times.
That hurts.
Yeah, it hurts. Man, I've heard of people winning tournaments with a pop rib.
Yeah,
Not me.
Yeah, no,
if I pop my rib, I'm done. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
The first time it happened, it was so annoying. I was a white belt, I'm pretty sure. I was in this tournament and I was just running through people. So I was a white belt for a long time because I was in the military, traveling a lot. Didn't really have time to like go to gyms outside, but I would train like at work. So I would just fight random Marines. So when you're rolling all the time, you just get really good.
Right.
And there's always someone who has a belt that knows something.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of teach yourself.
For sure.
And I was running through this whole tournament. I wasn't even taking breaks. I finished my whole division, and then they had me in the absolute. And I was like, I ran through like 2 people, and they're like, you need a break? This is your last fight. I was like, I don't need a break.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, it was a green belt, and I remember someone was telling me, they were like saying before the match, he's like, oh, this kid's good, he's a prodigy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. Well, I go against him, and he pulls for an arm bar, and he didn't have it. He was like right on the elbow, and I was like, oh yeah, and I just went to like throw his legs by. I think it was this way, and I just was gonna lay on him. And as soon as I like went to rip up and pull my arm out, it was just like pop, 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 pop.
Oh no.
And I literally was like holding on to him, and I was like, you could just fall in side control and then figure it out.
Yeah.
Or tap, like, what do you do? And he's like literally like squeezing my arm with all his might. And just like someone told me, it's like, dude, you can't even breathe.
Yeah.
Just tap. So I tapped, and man, it was extremely like, it kept me up for weeks because.
Yeah, you can't move. Like driving is the worst.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much you use your core until you're like, oh God, I can't make this left turn.
Well, so the dude that told me that the kid was a prodigy was like, I told you. And then this kid with a camera literally was just like got in my face with this stupid camcorder, and he's like, so what did it feel like in the match? And I'm just like, just staring at his soul. One of my buddies asked, he's like, dude, I don't know how you just didn't punch that dude in the face. And I was like, I was in such shock. I was still like processing what happened. But my coach was like, dude, what happened? And I was like, I literally just wrecked all my ribs.
Yeah.
And I was bedridden, and I had this, I was like traveling home soon, so I had it in my head I was gonna be super jacked and super fit. And I literally, all I did was stress eat for 3 weeks straight without being able to work out.
Oh no.
Bedridden, taking, one of those, what is it? Where they reduce the swelling.
Oh yeah.
So muscle relaxers or whatever.
Oh no.
So just a vegetable for like 3 weeks, just thinking about this little 16-year-old that just showed me up. And I was like, I'm gonna get him back one day, that fucker.
Never forget.
Yeah, for real. Man. So that's probably like my most traumatizing injury, I would say.
Man, besides my knee, like the weirdest one that actually like probably hurt, like one of the worst. I was trying to pass this white belt's guard, and she kicked, like, I don't know why, like she kicked and my big toenail just flipped up. Ooh. And like I felt it and I was like, don't look at it, like don't look down. It's like one of those, like when you stub your toe, you're like, just keep walking, you'll be okay. And I was like, oh, but like the pain, like I felt it, and then it just like got so hot. Like I felt like my toe was on fire, and I was like, dang it. Like then I looked down and I was like, ah! I was like, what the heck?
Dang.
So like that was probably one of those, I was like, I don't roll with white belts. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I was like, she kicked me, like my toenail. That was
freaking white belts.
Probably one of the craziest ones.
Yeah, one time I was rolling with a black belt, and you know how like, especially, you know, men, it's like you see the mercy grip a lot, you know?
Oh, yeah,
It's probably not the smartest move to do, but it's just like a test of strength, right?
Yeah,
so
for
I'm like
sure.
mixing it up with this black belt, we're like mercy gripping and seeing who's gonna have the strength on the hand fighting. And then after I roll with him, I go to a white belt and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna practice my mercy grips. And I was like looking to set him up and he literally just like hit my hand with his hand, just like jammed my pinky. And I was just like, oh! You know, it's so funny how you can go with a black belt super hard and you're really trying to use all your muscles. And then you go with a white belt and
it's just the most random thing that would happen, right? Like, that's funny. We just went over like that grip because one of my guys likes that, and I'm a '90s kid, so like it always reminds me of the like WWE, like when like they would like Shawn Michaels would just like mercy someone in the middle, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
no way.
For those who don't know, you're super successful. You're again, you're a personal trainer. You got multiple clients. You're you know, co-owner of a lifting gym. You have this place added on, which is an MMA gym. So you're coaching jiu-jitsu, no-gi jiu-jitsu, MMA, personal training, and then you kind of brought up how you're essentially like mentoring other personal trainers underneath you and showing them how to run a successful business. And so what advice would you give someone who wants to be in your shoes? Because I'm sure there are a lot of guys out there, a lot of women out there who one day want to be in your position. And so what kind of tip would you give them to maybe like, kind of something that you wish you knew as you were coming up?
I do wear many hats, and I think sometimes I am like waiting for science to create a clone. You know, because like I do, like I guess I just don't realize it sometimes of like how many roles that I do play and how many things I'm doing until I'm to that point where I'm just like, why am I so tired? You know, but I really do think doing this for so long, you know, I tried to do it all by myself for so many years. Like I really just was like, I can do this, you know, I can, you know, I'll barely sleep, you know, I'll you know, just spend all my time doing this. And then like it became where I was like spread too thin that nothing was working because it was getting just half of me or a little bit of me and like really no like creativeness in it at all. You know, I was just trying to play the part. And I think when I really leaned on my community and like realized like, okay, I'm not a social media manager. Like I need to reach out to somebody to help me do this, you know, or, you know, okay, I don't understand how to do this. Like, let me ask for help and see like who can help me, you know? So I think that's a big part of using like your community within and like who is good at what they do and can they help you, you know, versus like trying to do it all by yourself. You know, I think that's a really big part. And then also just being a student forever. Like I, even now, will reach out to people who I know are above me and just like ask, you know, like, can I learn from you? Or like, you know, do you have a seminar or a workshop, or I'll read a book of, you know, things that I don't know how to do, or somebody who does something better than me, you know, so that I'm like never satisfied with what I have, you know, and not into the point where like I don't think it's good enough, but just I know that there's room for error, and I know I never will have all the answers, you know, so I think just kind of keeping that mindset as like I'm always a student and I don't have it all, and that things change all the time and that's okay, really has like kept me able to do all the things that I do. And I also think focusing on like bigger picture type things, you know, like a lot of the personal training I do is just with people who just want to live a long time, you know, like that's kind of my method is like when I'm training someone that's not like a specific athlete, it's like I just want you to be hard to kill. Like I want you to be a 70-year-old and you can lift dog food out of your car, or you can reach something very high. You could pick up your grandkid out of the bathtub, you know, like all those things are very important to me. And so, you know, I just try not to get caught up in like trends, I guess, you know, like toning or a butt workout or, you know, things like that. When, you know, I really start to work with someone, I'm like, this has nothing to do with you wanting to grow a butt, you know, like let's really dig at what we're focusing on, you know? So I think just keeping things really simple and like focusing on that, and I think the little things and the little details will kind of like speak for themselves and turn out.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. just to kind of piggyback on what you said, being that eternal student and always looking for guidance from others, a lot of times we try to figure out things for ourselves, and what I found looking at people who are more successful than me, almost all of them have a coach of some sort, like not just a martial arts coach, but a business coach or a life coach or a therapist. Somebody is outside is kind of giving them direction.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, if you're trying to figure something out there, one of the best things you can do for yourself is find someone that you want to be like, or find someone who's doing the thing that you want to do, and see if you can learn from them.
Yeah.
And maybe the person you want is like, out of your reach, but there's someone underneath them. There's someone somewhere in the chain that is willing to give you information almost for free. People love teaching and giving out, advice, because a lot of times, I'm sure you know this, like how many people probably ask you something or want information from you, but they mostly just want you to listen to what they have to say about
right.
it.
Yeah.
They're asking you, but they don't really care about the information you have.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you find someone that's willing to listen, you're willing to give them the information.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like I will say, maybe in the past like couple of years, is when I really realized like I hit that age where like there's a lot of younger people coming out of high school and college who are like trying to get that next step in their career, and so like I've brought people here just at the gym just to be like, start shadowing. Like that's kind of how like I started. I was a freshman in college and my professor owned a Nautilus gym, and I stayed after class one day and was like, one day I'm going to be a trainer. Can I shadow some of your trainers? And it's like make sure this is what I want to do. And like he ended up hiring me. So it was someone who like was willing to invest in me at 18 years old. And I learned how to personal train and like learned how to shadow this, this successful professor who also owned a business, at such a young age. Like I was already doing what I'm doing now by the time I was 21, so I had just a lot of years of experience. And I think that goes a long way is like, everybody, not everybody, but some people want that like quick money or quick reaction stuff. But like, there's like years where I was making like $8 a session or nothing, just to like earn like a position, in management, or to not just be like the low tier trainer, but like to have like more clients and charge more and things like that, So I think doing the work and just being open to like, I'm going to be the best that I can be at this position until I, make my way up, like it really goes a long way. And like, it's the long game. Like, I think if you find something that you love, like know that it's not tomorrow and it might not be next year, but eventually over time, like you're going to realize like, oh wow, like now I'm an expert in my field. Like now, I put my time in, I deserve to be here, and I think that just comes with time and finding people that are willing to invest in you. So.
Yeah. So it seems like that conversation that you're willing to initiate kind of like really got you going on the path.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that I've always just been like that curious person, where, I don't know, like my mom wanted me to, get your master's, get your PhD, this and that, and I was like, no, I really like fighters. I really like working with fighters, and I want to fight, and I really like exercising, and I think I've just, like, it's not even just about the exercise sometimes, like it's really about the people that I meet and like just, I trained this 67-year-old lady who like came into my gym and like I'm talking like completely hunched over, like just, osteoporosis runs in her family, like she couldn't pick up her grandkids, and now she's like my hardest worker. Like I post about her all the time because it's just so amazing to me that like all of a sudden she's just super ripped, like at 67,
I think
and
I've
like
seen her before.
Yeah, like pushes the prowler and like carrying heavy sandbags and just has like this no quit attitude. And like as cool as it is to like see her do that, her blood work is completely like that of like a 40-year-old. Like, and it completely changed. Like she's off every single medication. Her resting heart rate is in the 60s. Like it's just like things that like I didn't even like consider. I was just worried about her posture, and it's like, no, like it just completely changed her and like her confidence in herself and, things like that. So I just think, if you're passionate about something, like don't get hung up on the little stuff. Like there's so much of a bigger picture that comes into play with it,
Yeah. One of my main goals for myself is that I want to be like impactful in a community, with, a kids class, and then what you're doing with your with your clients. It's like to be a staple in any community where you're making lives better is like, says a lot about, your legacy, instead of, I've been competing for a long, so I've been in the game for 12 years too. My first competition was over 12 years ago. And what you realize is that one, no title or medal is ever really going to make you happy. There'll always be another one. And then if you know that and no one really cares, right? It's like there's going to be a new champion. There's going to be a new super fight. It's like no matter how many times you win, the first question someone will ask you is like, when are you competing again?
Yeah, 100%.
So then it almost forces you to always have something to say.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm planning for this and I'm planning for that.
You're like, dang.
And I hate having nothing on the books where it's like, oh, so you're not competing? I'm like, oh, well, I am. I just don't know which one yet. But to actually, again, like no one really cares about the medals. But if you have a kids class where you're a positive influence on children's lives like that, you could be a change like 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the future where where kids and clients will remember you and what you've done for them. It's like, and you said you played basketball too. Basketball was my thing too before martial arts. And so, one of the biggest role models in my life was my basketball coach when I was coming up through middle school. He just took a notice in me and like, it's crazy how far just some small compliments will go. It's like, hey man, it's all right, keep going. And when someone believes in you, it's funny how sometimes, you almost need someone else to believe in you so that you can believe in yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's funny you say that. I had a basketball coach as well who was like, as an adult, like reached out to me. It was like, I knew you'd always be successful. Like you had that drive as a kid, things like that. And I'm like, thank you. Like, but like, what about now? Right? No, definitely. So it makes a huge difference, like having a mentor like that, or, but also someone who's willing to tell you the truth too. I think that goes a long way.
One of the things that changed my perspective of coaching was someone had told me, I can't remember if I was complaining about something or I was just telling them about the kids, and they just kind of said, there's a good chance that you're the only positive male influence in some of those kids' lives. So like, just remember that. And I was like, dang. Because I remember me growing up and I didn't always have a positive male influence in my life. And I was like, and that's why some of my coaches were such a big impact on me. And it's like, you can really be a huge difference, especially if you go into it with that mindset.
No, absolutely. No, I think like kind of same with that is like your perspective of like, I don't like, it gets stressful and things like that, but like having that positive mindset where it's like, I get to do this. Like I get to coach these guys here today, when they come in, like I get to hear about their day. Like it's not a burden on me. You know what I mean? Like and it's true. Like I have so many different like people here where it is like, this is the best part of their day. Like how selfish of me to show up and be like stressed out or like not give my all when like they can't wait to get here. Like they had a hard day at school or at work and like they're coming in here, they're going to see their their buddies, they're going to be on the mat. Like how dare I come in with like a negative mindset, like I get to be part of their day for an hour and like, that's really cool.
Yeah. As far as injuries go, what advice would you give someone who is injured or considering that same, like, should they pivot, should they keep going, or what should they do with themselves? Because it's going to be a problem that everyone's probably going to face multiple times.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in jiu-jitsu, like injuries are common. Like it is what it is. It's a combat sport, no matter how fun it is. And I think one thing that I deal with a lot is people starting in their 30s or sometimes in their 40s and, they'll tweak something and they're like, oh, I can't do that sport. Like, it's too much on my body. But like, my biggest advice is like, maybe like look at what your daily habits look like. Are you eating enough? Are you hydrated? Are you sitting at a desk like this all day and then you expect your body to perform on the mat, when you just drove here and you chugged a bunch of caffeine and you did a little shakeout and some shrimps, so, I would really like look for a trainer, look for, you know, an online thing with mobility, you know, have somebody look at your blood work and see, you know, where you're lacking, or, you know, have a nutrition coach look at, you know, oh, maybe you're just not fueling your body for the sports you're trying to do, you know. I think that goes a long way as far as like those nagging injuries, is just doing kind of a self-assessment and like, am I fueling my body? You know, like this is kind of your vessel, and like, you know, if you were a very nice like Porsche and you're trying to drive to San Antonio, like you wouldn't put some unleaded like Walmart gas, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna fuel it with something really good. And I think that your body needs to be treated the same way, you know. But as far as like a serious injury that's gonna take you off the mats, like honestly, just being on the mat or near the mat, watching my teammates roll, watching my guys roll, like goes a long way. Cause now I became just a super nerd at watching and realizing like I'm not so worried about my game anymore. Like I'm worried about like, or I'm seeing details that I could help with somebody, or I see something where I'm like, oh man, I never do that. Like that's a really cool thing that you do, you know? And like I said, I'm a super nerd. Like I take notes, like, you know, like I study a lot. I watch, you know, jiu-jitsu all the time. But I think just being still involved in it, teaching, you know, still just like verbally, like just helps with that injury, to know that like I still have a part on the mat, even if I can't roll right now or I can't train. Like it's still part of who I am, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something someone told me, I think it was one of my coaches, but he's like, yeah, if you're hurt, there's nothing stopping you from coming in and watching.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you think about it, if you train jiu-jitsu, how often do you get to watch other people roll?
Right.
You know, most of the time you're participating, so you don't really get to watch your teammates roll in heated matches or whatever. And you know, one of the biggest things you can do for yourself is watch, and not just watch on TV or on YouTube, but actually watching your teammates. And so, yeah, when people get hurt, they should be, if you still want to get better, and you know, that's something you can't wait to get back, don't just disappear.
Right.
You know, it's like if this is something you take seriously, then come in, watch the technique, and then watch your teammates roll and see what you can pull from it.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, even just like I'll pull a band over here and still do some of my rehab exercises or some of my exercises, you know, like I have one knee hurt, but my other leg is good and my arms are good. Like I was just on this, like, I'm just gonna get a swole upper body and walk on my hands. Like, you know what I mean? So like, there's still things you can do. You know, like I suggest always taking like 2 to 3 days to feel sorry for yourself, cry it out, eat some bad food, talk shit about, talk smack about somebody's else's jiu-jitsu on YouTube, and then like get back on the mat. You're fine. Like feel your feels and get back to it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned earlier that you were in the military? Yeah,
I did. I was in the National Guard for a little while. So.
Yeah, so you definitely have an idea of like what it's like.
Yes. I'm gonna be completely honest. I just followed officers around. I enlisted after college, so I was an E4, and I wanted to go into officer candidate school. Like everything kind of all happened at once. Like I got injured. My contract was almost up. Like I had just opened up Grindhouse, and I actually got really lucky. And my commander was like, "Hey, you don't need to be here, you know, like, you know, do you want to re-up, or like, you know, we can, you know, just let your contract expire, like, you know, you're okay." And I was like, yeah, I should probably focus on my business, you know, so, but yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think I've always been just loved, like, the discipline and, like, the camaraderie, and, like, just I wanted to be a really badass soldier, you know, and so, it kind of worked out to do more like reserve style and do the guard, and you know, like I said, things just kind of happened and folded in place where I was like, okay, well, you know, I was in for a few years while I was still in college, and you know, or graduating college and figuring things out, and yeah, so it was kind of a short stint of my life, but it was great to be part of. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. One of the things that I think the military really helped with is that you're surrounded by like-minded individuals who are trying to better themselves.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the best appeals of jiu-jitsu. Like besides the martial art itself, right? Obviously, it's going to build confidence, and it's going to help you learn a lot of valuable tools in dealing with both, you know, a combatant or life itself. But one of the best things, like one of the main reasons why I want to get people in there, whether it's like, you know, me trying to convince my cousin or my brother or whoever, is like, dude, it's the people that you're around, you know, and that's one of the big things about the military was like, you know, not only are you, you know, stressed out to the maximum in there and you're trying to just figure it out, but there's next level individuals next to you that are living in the same building as you. And all you have to do is like learn from them. And, you know, we all need competition, you know, it's like not necessarily like that you're competing with these individuals, but you need to see that there are other individuals who are willing to do more than what the average person is doing. Whether it's like reading books, you know, it's like you want to be a better, you know, everyone wonders how can I be a better soldier, or a better Marine, or a better martial artist, and it's like, okay, well, look to the people who are living the life, who are in it, and what are they doing? And oftentimes you find that they're reading books, or that they're doing something extra in their off time, or like, you know, like one common thing is, you know, reading a book on the commander's reading list or whatever. And, you know, you would think it's silly, but how you were saying how you have to fuel your body with the best stuff, you want to fuel your mind with the best stuff. And even if it's super intense, like David Goggins, for example, he's a lot. You know, when I first was learning about him, I was like, that's too much, dude.
You're like, okay, chill.
Chill. And but you know, I eventually like got his Audible book and like you know, started listening to it, and it's just like, just by listening to it, I was way more likely to make the harder decision. So it's whether you see his perspective or not, it's like if he's in your ear, you're way more likely to do the things that you told yourself you were gonna do or that you wanted to do. And so, just I think the biggest advantage for jiu-jitsu is being surrounded by those individuals who are looking for that extra push.
No, absolutely. I have and I think it trickles down, you know, like I try to set that standard for these guys, you know, like some of them have never played a sport before, you know, but like if you come in here, the standard is like you show up for your team, you know, like it's not, it's just you on the mat sometimes, but like somebody has a competition or a fight or something and they need you there, you know, like they need you on the mat to help them, to train with them, like, you know, and I think one of those things where you realize like, okay, I think we're doing something right. You know, like Ross Walker is, he fights for for Fury, and literally after every single fight, they fight on Sundays. He's here Monday, like on the mat, like bruised or whatever, you know. And I tell him sometimes, I'm like, you know, you deserve a day off, and he's like, no, the guy's got a smoker coming up, so I'm gonna be here, you know, and like. But he set that tone for everybody. So now after a tournament, you know, I know people that will just like take a week off and like, oh, my comp's over. They're back on the mat, like showing each other like what they saw in other people's matches, or the new guy they're pairing up, you know, because they want to roll a little bit lighter, you know. But like, it's so important to like have it be bigger than you, you know, and like just be here and like, you know, just be the example, you know, just do what's right.
100%. Well, so, so you have an athlete here. I want to say he helps you coach. The only time I've ever seen him than the time I was here was like on Instagram, and it seemed like he was helping you coach. But he's a smaller guy. I think he has a crazy beard. One time I showed up here for an open mat, and I just assumed he was going to be a white belt. And he was actually really, really good. But he's shorter, kind of looks like a caveman.
Is he younger or?
Man, I want to say he's older. I don't know.
Yeah, Sam?
Sam?
Yeah.
And he's really good. He got me in a knee bar. Yeah, he's got a pretty big beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's awesome.
I showed up here and I was trying to just warm up. And, you know, he was in like, I swear, basketball shorts and a t-shirt.
Might be.
Yeah. He wasn't wearing like the no-gi stuff. He was wearing just like casual attire. And so I was like, well, he can't be very good.
No. Okay, you're thinking about Zach.
Zach is his name?
He's a black belt.
He's a black belt? Yeah, he's got to be very good. Because he knee barred me, so I was like,
Yeah, Zach Henson. So he trains out of Elite.
Okay.
But he lives like right around the corner.
Okay, so he pops in
and I
sometimes?
trained with his wife for many years. And so after she had the baby and things, he would kind of hop in and out. And now he's just become a big part of our family. Like he's a pro fighter as well, so he helps me coach the MMA guys. You know, like I kind of talked about, you know, utilizing people who are better than you. So like. He's great at cage stuff and just has that MMA eye, has been in the scene, you know, so he helps me a lot with all of these guys and jiu-jitsu, so.
Very cool, I
so
came here.
Don't worry, like he earned his mat time.
That
knee bar was No.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it was one of my white belts.
Yeah,
no, I'm
yeah,
totally
yeah. There's no way it could have been a white belt.
No.
Because I was here, and I was on one of the Nogi Saturday open mats, and so again, you don't really know who anyone is, but I assumed that all your guys would be like new white belts.
Yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, I'll take you. And he didn't even blink.
Wait a minute.
Well, he was getting him out of all my attacks, and so I was just like, okay, well, it's because he's tiny and he's just shoving me off and stuff.
This is the grindhouse catfish. No,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
We put him on the mat on purpose.
Yeah. I think I was just trying. I was like, I'm not gonna do any leg locks to this guy, and then I couldn't get anything. I was like, okay, well now I'm going for a leg lock, and I did one of my patented moves, and he just like spun around and got me in a knee bar of his own.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah. He's probably like our favorite. Like he's super nice, but like my wife and I joke that like there must be something when you get your black belt where you just get all of a sudden this grip strength that like you can't break it. So like when he grabs you, we're all just like and just like at his will. Like
some people have some crazy grips. It's funny how people have different styles. Since we're talking about black belts, I remember I used to train in Wilmington in South Carolina, or Wilmington is North Carolina, but on the border. And there's these two coaches. One was a former recon Marine, and another was John Salter, who just retired from Bellator, wrestler, everything. And it always cracked me up how different their styles were. Retired Marine, or he wasn't retired, but recon Marine, he felt like smoke to me. It felt like he would always like scoot to my back or just be out of the way of wherever I was at. And it'd just be like, you'd go to grab him and then he's like behind you and you're like, ah. And then the other guy, he would just grab you and like throw you around. You know, you just like grab your hand and then it's like, that's his hand now. He grabs my neck and now my head's going wherever he wants it to go.
That's how I feel when I roll with Professor Travis. I'm like, I think he's made of whatever Wolverine is made out of.
Yeah.
Like one time I legit like popped my neck. Like I went to shoot in for a single and ran into his abs and I was like, oh my God, my neck. Like I was like, that's not real. Like this, how did you do that?
Right. Yeah, no, I roll with Travis too, and he's smaller, so and I do really well with most people. I go to most gyms and I'm neck and neck with almost.
Oh yeah, you came to one of our pro trainings, right?
Yeah, I want to come again. I want to bother him about being on the pod, but he's really nice. He, he could have just been like, let me try a first session, but he insisted. He was like, no, come back another time or two and just really come train with us. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's very nice. Most people are like one session and then pay. Yeah. And I even told him I'm not looking to sign up. I'm just looking to mix it up. And he still was just like, yeah, come a couple extra times for free.
For sure.
But yeah, no, he got me twice with that. I want to say, he definitely got me at least once with an armbar from the guard. And that's impressive because arm bars from the guard are really hard to get no-gi against a much bigger opponent. Yeah. And yeah, he straight up finessed me into it. And I was like, okay. And I swear he got me with something else too, I'm sure. And he's smaller and he's very unassuming. Yes. And so I was just thoroughly impressed. I was like, okay, he doesn't seem to be a super athlete. He's not bigger than me. I got to outweigh him by 50 pounds at least. Right. And he still was like, guard, boom, closed guard armbar. I was like, wow. And that's like legit skill that I appreciate. You know, it's like, because there are some submissions where it's like, they're one-trick ponies. Yeah. You know, it's like, you get me with that once, but I'm never letting you get that again. Or, leg locks, you can really funnel people into like just positions they've never been into. But to get hit with a basic armbar from closed guard is like, at no-gi, that's like next level jiu-jitsu.
Right,
I know. So I was like, this guy knows
like
what he's
sold.
doing. Yeah, sold.
For sure, that's how I feel every time too. I think one time, it was during that Thursday class, like a lot of people from Houston will come and roll and like, he foot swept me from this, like I saw it coming. And so like I thought I was tricky and I took a step back and he still hit it. And I just was like, as I'm falling, I'm like, come on! It's like you can't stop anything that's happening. So.
Yeah. Well, Alyssa, I think that's our time. I really appreciate you coming on.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Again, you were telling me what you go through with your knee, how you had to go through, you have to pretty much go through like neighborhoods to get here.
Yeah, I'm like,
because you can't even.
No, I can't even. I unlocked it for the pod, but yeah, I'm just like granny driving. Like,
dang,
so it's all good.
Well, again, I really appreciate you taking the time.
For sure.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Alyssa.
Scotty. Appreciate it.